call this meeting to order. December 17th, 2019, Oconee County Council meeting. It is 6 p.m. We'll begin with public comment session. Mr. Barnett.
Shame we can't fill this room up every meeting like this, you know. and everybody of the same mindset I am. That would be neat. You see that kid down there grinning, you know. He read his mind. For the record, I'm Jerry Barnett. I live on the farm where I grew up. And my family came here before there was an Oconee County. Settled at Salem. Part of every I've been given a lot of thought to wants and needs. We've got a lot of hogs at our trough, at the people's trough. Everybody wants something at the taxpayer's expense. And we've reached a point to where gonna have to give this some thought. You've got all these boards and commissions. They exist for one thing, and that is to pick the people's pocket. Some of them exist to violate their rights. That needs to be addressed. You need to remember what this great country stands for and the founding principles. You know, we're going to maintain a free society. You need to give some attention to what's going on here and the way our resources are being spent. I saw, of course, you say you didn't have much choice with the cat bus debacle. And I keep hearing about the grant. We all understand that those grants come out of our pocket. And they are nothing but a political and a bureaucratic slush fund. Now, it's an insult to all of us that we've got these cat buses riding around the city of Seneca with nobody on them half the time. 2 passengers seems to be a big load. Now, if you're going to have public transportation, there's a more efficient way of doing it. It might not quite make quite the statement, and it might not shore up the bureaucrats. But if you're going to have it, for God's sake, it needs to make some sense to us that paying the bills. And we're not going to forget who talked up the cat bus. We're not going to forget that. You know, give us credit. The people in these rural communities, we understand what's going on, and we understand what the problem is, and we understand who is behind part of the problems. And at some point, the people are going to have to address it themselves if y'all refuse to. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Any written comment can be delivered to Ms. Smith. We'll go to council member comments.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir, Mr. McCall.
There was an article in the paper about the meetings we had with the health clinic, and they, good article, except that one thing, they downplayed John Elliott's role with me on the clinic. He's in this with me. I mean, he's not playing second fiddle. He's right in there with me, him, and the sheriff. So we're neck and neck. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to thank Mr. Elliott and Mr. McCall for what they've done for the Joseph Sullivan Center. It's helping people that fell through the cracks. 7,000 veterans would be helped with this. It's open 5 days a week. They're going to have satellite offices in Westminster and Salem when this gets kicking. And I'd just like to thank them for their foresight in seeing what we need in this county. This is one of the better things that I know that we have done. Thank you.
Any other comments? Moment of silence. Thank you. Do I have to remove my Santa hat for prayer? I think I do.
It's up to you.
Sorry. Mr. Root?
Be on you.
Pray with me if you'd like to. Dear Father, we thank you for today and in particular this time of year when we get our focus on things that truly matter. I really pray that we would have that all year round, but this time is special. A time when we can focus on those who do not have, we can focus on giving, and that spirit is in the air. So I pray that that spirit would catch hold of us. I'm thankful for the things like helping with health care that Mr. McCall talks of, Mr. Elliott and he are involved in. All the things that council is doing where they are trying to reach out and help the citizens who cannot help themselves. And that's good government. Help us to be a part of that as staff, to give us wisdom, to not commit waste, but to be wise and give council that wisdom too. And thank you for everybody who's here tonight. I know that they're here for wonderful purposes, to celebrate and to honor Chief King as well. But I do pray that we'd have good community involvement. Like Mr. Barnett said, every meeting, which we fill this place up so people, all the voices could be heard. But all in all, I just pray that our hearts get in the right place, not only tonight, but in this season, that we'd have an eye open to those who are in need, be it shelter, food, and that we would see you in other people, made in your image, that our heart would go out to them and we would not be selfish, but be kind. In your name I pray. Amen.
Chief King, will you lead us in the pledge? Need a motion to approve December 3rd, 2019 regular minutes.
Second.
Any changes, amendments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Westminster Magistrate, Ms. Brock?
Good evening, Council. Chairman, thank you. And thank you, Elle, for coming in honor of our 9 and under and our 12 and under Westminster Volleyball. Certainly a pleasure to have you here tonight, Herb. And thank you all from Emergency Services who have come to wish Chief King farewell, although we do not say goodbye, we're just saying farewell for now. With the Westminster Magistrate Court facility, the county is going through the process of completing the due diligence, looking at the building for possibilities of what we'll have to do moving forward. And even though we do not need council approval, I feel like this is something that would benefit everyone just for its communication base, that we will be putting it out for a design bid very likely at the second meeting in January. Just want to give an update on that because a lot of what we do, the due diligence part, is kind of quiet and under the scenes. Did not want any member of the public or council to believe that we had forgotten about it. Some of these things just take some time to get rolling on. We do have a zoning matter that we are working with diligently with the city of Westminster to make sure that we are in compliance with their zoning regulations as well. But that will be coming in January to design build process.
Okay. Thank you for your work in that. It's a
Yes, sir.
rendering out there somewhere.
Yes, actually, all the hustle, I forgot.
You can do a Christmas parade and show.
Now, this was a previous church building that we will be repurposing. And these are just renditions, not actual drawings, but these are some
Can you hold it
conceptual.
up for us first?
I haven't seen her. I'm so sorry. these are not set in stone again. These were just conceptual drawings for us to put out the idea for the design build process to begin with.
Thank you for your work and staff's work on that as well. So
It's been a pleasure.
look forward, it's a long time coming on that project.
Sure has. It sure has.
All right. Any other comments as administrator?
I don't believe so, other than thanks for everybody for coming.
We'll move into the estate of William C. Lyles, Oconee County Conservation Bank Board, fee simple purchase. Oconee County Conservation Bank Board unanimously approved on Tuesday, December 10th, 2019, for council to approve funding in the amount of $66,100 or 10% of the appraised value, whichever is less, for a fee simple purchase to Upstate Forever. We need a motion to approve that.
Make a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Where's this money coming from?
Sir. Ms. Brown?
Mr. McCall, these are the designated funds donated by Duke Energy in 2016 for the sole purpose of establishing a conservation bank and to put properties in Oconee County in conservation easements.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We're gonna move, we've got a basketball game going on in Westminster, so we're gonna bump Proclamation 2019-15 for a minute. So we're gonna move to Proclamation 2019-16. I'm gonna read the proclamation, and then we'll go down front, and Mr. McCall's gonna present the plaque. So this is a Proclamation 2019-16 proclamation recognizing Oconee County Emergency Services Fire Chief Charles V. King. Whereas Charlie V. King began his career with Oconee County Emergency Services as Fire Chief on December 13, 2011. And whereas Chief King worked with administration and local fire and rescue leadership to unite 14 rural fire departments, 5 municipal fire departments, and 1 special tax district fire department under Oconee County Emergency Services. And whereas Chief King incorporated 1 county, 1 mission, whereby the countywide procedures were established for consistent practices and improved services to citizens and residents. And whereas Chief King assisted local fire departments through guidance, leadership, training, and logistic support, his knowledge and hard work made him an extremely valuable resource and a shining example of a public service within the community. And whereas Chief King represented Oconee County Emergency Services on the local, state, and federal levels and performed his duties in a manner which reflected great credit upon himself and Oconee County government. And whereas Chief King served with devotion and commitment, dedicating countless hours to the health and safety of citizens, residents, and visitors in Oconee County and the state of South Carolina. And whereas Chief King has accepted a position as the Executive Director of the South Carolina Firefighters Association, where he may continue to support firefighters across the state. Now therefore, we, the County Council, do hereby recognize and express sincere gratitude to Chief King for 8 years of outstanding service, dedication, and commitment to Oconee County, and wish him the best of luck. Do I have a motion to approve?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Charlie, man, we really appreciate everything you've done for us in the county and going out your way to educate everybody about the rules and regulations of firefighting. So I want to give you this plaque and I wish you the best in the future. And I hope you come back here one day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chief. Can't break off.
Just stand on. Let's see if we can get this right this time.
So, let me know.
We don't do it enough.
We're gonna ice you on your shoulder, dog.
back to proclamation 2019-15. Proclamation recognizing the 9 and under and 12 and under Westminster Recreation All-Star Volleyball teams for winning the South Carolina Athletic Program State Championship. Whereas the Oconee County Council wishes to encourage involvement in sports and other recreation activities within the county. And whereas the hard work, commitment, and exceptional sportsmanship displayed by the 9 and under and 12 and under recreation all-star volleyball teams has enabled these athletes to win the South Carolina Athletic Program State Championship. And whereas the council recognizes the local, state, and regional attention brought to the Oconee County community as a result of this achievement, now therefore we, the Oconee County Council, extend our congratulations to the athletes and coaches of the 9 and under and 12 and under Westminster Recreation All-Star Volleyball teams for their outstanding performance in the 2019 South Carolina Athletic Program State Championship. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. And y'all can all come up to the front, please. Congratulations. Who's my two coaches? If y'all will introduce your players real quick, or, raise your hand when you're called.
Okay, first I'm going to introduce my assistant. This is Claire Alexander. I'm Cheryl Vanderbilt, the 9 and under coach. This is Riley Bertrand, Lila Stewart, Molly Roach, Kendall Marcingill, Valina Vanderwill, y'all come here. Aubrey Hogan, Ellie Jordan, Olivia Roberts, and Macy Smith. And this is our 9U team.
And I'm Tara White. I'm the 12 and under coach. This is my assistant, Jennifer Simpson, assistant Shauna Blackwell, Bailey Blackwell, Emma Simpson, Maya Cobb, Chloe Andrews, Kylie Perry, Madison Williams, Miley White, Ashton Sosby, and Sophie Collin. And I have one that's missing, Davy Moore. She's sick.
Stay still, we'll move up in somewhere. Find you a place to hide.
All right, little ones to the front. Thank you. Little ones to the front.
Who's the one? We'll see you.
Olivia.
Hold this one.
Leah.
Can you hold that?
Macy, did you?
Can you hold that? There you go.
You are
I need two of you on this side. There you go. There you go.
I must have been missing something. So many.
All right. Everybody smile, go forward.
I don't know where to look.
Got a blink? All right. Good. Thank y'all. Congratulations. There you go.
Thank you.
If you want any more, just
Okay. So thank you.
You had a big trophy to give them?
He's a rock star. One second. If we didn't have kids, can we get cowbells? Right, Jake? We need cowbell. Short cowbell and cowbells. Things you thought you'd never say in council. That's awesome.
Okay, we'll move forward. We have public hearing ordinance 2019-23, ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery between the infrastructure tax credit agreement between Oconee County, South Carolina, and Technology Solutions. No one has signed up for public hearing ordinance 2019-23 on Technology Solutions. If you'd like to speak, you can come forward now. Any written comments can be delivered to Ms. Smith. I'll move to close public hearing on ordinance 2019-23 at this time on Technology Solutions. Public hearing open on ordinance 2019-24, ordinance authorizing the county administrator to enter into an addenda for a lease agreement to which the county is a party, providing alternative comprehensive general liability insurance and other matters related thereto. No one has signed up for this public hearing at this time. If anybody would like to step forward, you can. Any written comments can be delivered to Ms. Smith. I'll move to close ordinance 2019-24 on general liability. All right, and we have third reading, ordinance 2019-23, which is the Technology Solutions. Do I have a motion to approve?
Make a motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Third reading on ordinance 2019-24, which is the general liability requirements. Do I have a motion to approve?
Make a motion.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We have no second readings at this time. We do have a first reading on following ordinance 2019-25, ordinance amending Chapter 30, Article 3 of Oconee County Code of Ordinances in relation to the local accommodations tax in order to clarify certain exemptions and collection standards, as well as record inspections, penalties, and other matters related thereto. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. First reading ordinance 2019-26, ordinance to amend Chapter 6, Article 3 of Oconee County Code of Ordinances in relation to the membership of the Oconee County Board of Building Codes and other matters related thereto. Do I have a motion to approve?
Make a motion.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Just to clarify, this is the one that we were talking about removing the architectural requirement from that seat, correct?
It doesn't remove the architectural requirement. It removes the mandatory requirement for all the seats as to professional standing.
Okay.
So the relevant language is council shall endeavor, but is not required to appoint candidates as follows. And then it has the same list, so it gives you the discretion. Try to do this if you can, like y'all have.
Right.
But if you can't, you have the option to appoint someone outside of those particular trades and professions.
Is that clear with council? We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Ordinance 2019-27, ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of an office lease agreement between Oconee County as lessor and Julie Abraham as leasee for certain real property, including all improvements thereon located adjacent to Hangar E, Oconee County Regional Airport, 365 Airport Road, Seneca, South Carolina, and other matters related thereto. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Do a first and final reading before we enter into Resolution 2019-23. I'd like a motion to amend the agenda to move this resolution to after executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Well, let me forget that.
I got you.
All right, we do have discussion regarding action items, Foothills, excuse me, Farmstead, Maine Farmhouse Reconstructions. This is the delivery of the grant that we have, that Foothills Farmstead has received on that. This is not additional funding. This is expending the funds that were put out there. Staff's recommendation that council approve the sole source award for the reconstruction of Foothills Farmstead House to Old Oakway Architectural Salvage in the amount of $79,500. Do I have a motion to approve?
Make a motion.
I have a motion and a second. I think, right, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Any discussion?
You know, just.
Yes, sir.
Want to clarify one thing. Now, this is a pass-through grant. It's not coming out of the general fund.
Right, this is the matching of the grant that was applied through that. Ms. Brock, you'll just kind of discuss on how we're using the grant and how the county is applying.
Yes, sir, absolutely. Mr. McCall, last year, Nick, correct me if I'm wrong anywhere, the Foothills Farmstead applied for and received a grant notification for $100,000, of which they had about a 50% match requirement. Am I correct there? The farmstead itself had raised 50% of the funding, and the county had matched the additional 50% of funding to be utilized for the grant purposes only, and this is through as a pass-through agency for the funding received from the grant. Yes, sir.
Reason I ask, I'm looking to hijack about $80,000 for the sheriff's department for 2 more investigators. I'm looking for a reason. You explained it. That's good enough.
Mr. Gambrell is here. Appreciate him being here tonight. If anybody has any questions for him about the project, if you'd like him to speak, you can. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. All right, physicals for firefighters, emergency services, not to exceed $54,000. Remaining budget, $66,963. The project cost for the physicals is $54,000. It's staff's recommendation that council, 1, approve award of ITB number 1901 physicals for firefighters to Upstate Medical Associates, PA of Seneca, South Carolina, and North Greenville Fitness of Travelers Rest, South Carolina, for a combined not to exceed the amount of $54,000 for a period of 1 year, with the option to renew for additional 1-year periods. And 2, authorize the county administrator to renew the contracts not to exceed the future fiscal year's approved budgets amounts for up to 4 1-year periods, provided their work is satisfactory. Do I have a motion to approve the recommendation?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion to second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. We have the approval of a 2021 Freightliner 114 SD with roll-off cable hoist for solid waste. The amount is $159,732.24. It's staff's recommendation that council approve the purchase of the 2021 Freightliner 114 SD with roll-off hoist from Iron Containers Incorporated, doing business as New Life Environmental of Easley, South Carolina, in the amount of $159,732.24. This truck will actually replace a 1994 roll-off truck, which will be taken out of service and sold at the future public auctions or on Gov Deals. Do I have a motion to approve staff's recommendation?
Make a motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. We're going to move, this is more of a discussion, request council approval for staff to investigate cost and feasibility studies to demolishing the former Fairplay School building. Ms. Brock, I'll give you the floor, and as council sees fit for discussion.
Okay, I thank you, sir, and ready to go over this again. Several years ago, Oconee County was asked to look at the possibility of overtaking or taking ownership of the previous Fairplay School, which is located in the heart of Fairplay, which is currently owned by Fair Oak Youth Center. A sliver of the portion of the property, I do believe, is still currently owned by the school district, but it's a very small corner of it. The building has been in continuously deteriorating condition as long as I remember, and I've been here 19 years, since they've moved the recreational complex out of the Fair Oak area and into the old Oakway School that they now are currently in. Mr. Hart, I believe, listed this 2 years ago as a priority. We did a phase 1 in 2018. Well, we initiated in 2017 for them to do a phase 1 and contaminant. analysis on the building and structure. Since that time, the inaction of anyone who owns it, it is again owned by the Fair Oak Youth Center, but they're not utilizing it in any way. It's an old school building. They got it from the school district. It's in disrepair. The county did the phase one. We did not go as far as to get cost estimates as to the demolition because there is asbestos and lead-based paint, and knowing that the cost of that demolition would be in excess of what the administrator is allowed to expend without council approval, there would be no reason to do that without it coming back to council. So this is a council discussion now, whether and I do have an extra copy of this phase one here, and I can make extra copies. I do have a digital copy as well I can send. 90% of it is boring. There's 2 pages that tells you essentially that they have some asbestos material and some lead-based paint. Surrounding the building itself, the property may have some other issues, and phase one was never conducted on the actual geographic property, just on the structural building itself.
Do we own this building now?
No, sir, we do not.
How are we gonna do work, spend county money on private property?
I wish I'd asked Chief Wilkerson to stay, but he's still not here. And I'm sure he'll call you if I'm wrong, because Chief Wilkerson's like that, and that's a good thing. The county does not own it, and how we got this far was that we had an agreement that we would assist with the Fair Oak Youth Center when they were previously looking at keeping the structure. Mr. Hart, it looks like I may have something in error here. If I'm saying something wrong, speak up. You may know more than I
I'll
do.
let you have the floor, that way you
Okay.
can answer the question.
Mr. Wilkerson, will you please come up here to the podium?
I didn't see you, Larry, I'm sorry.
Council's okay. Y'all get
Just exactly in the view, I couldn't see you behind me.
Larry Wilson, Chief of Fairplay Fire Department. Go ahead.
They asked about the ownership of the property. Could you tell them what the plans are with the ownership of the property?
So currently, the Fair Oak Youth Center owns the property. It was deeded to them from the school board some years ago. And as Administrator mentioned, it's in considerable disrepair, drug paraphernalia inside. Every time it gets boarded up, the boarding gets taken down anyway. That's just the current status of the building. There's been several attempts to burn the gymnasium. We go in there and see where campfires, for lack of a better word, have been started in the gymnasium. So it's in great disrepair. But the youth center owns the property, and the youth center no longer needs that property since they've obtained the property at Oakway. And so they have, earlier this year, they voted, their board of directors voted to turn that property over to the Fairplay Fire Department. And the Fairplay Fire Department board and members have voted to accept that property. That transfer has not happened yet, basically because of the hazards, the likely the amount of cost and the hazards are going to be in excess of what the property's worth. Be it as it may, it's a pretty dangerous place for people around the community, and the youth center is still using the property across the road, so it's a hazard even for the children over there, anybody goes in the building. So does that answer your question about the ownership of the property?
Yes, sir, that's what.
Well, if the school board, if you got the building, you got out here. If the school board built the building with a hazardous material in it, on the way the federal law works, the originator of the hazard is responsible no matter how many hands it passed. Could we go back to the school board and say, you gotta pay for the cleanup? Because they are the originator.
Is that directed at me, Mr. McCall?
Yes.
That sound legal.
Yes, it was, wasn't it?
Guessing it was.
Sorry.
My recollection, we've got specific asbestos abatement and monitoring requirements for all buildings, different ones for school buildings. I haven't looked at the school building monitoring and abatement requirements in sometime, it's probably been a decade. So I'd have to look back at that and see. I do not believe that the culpability to remove the asbestos, if they kept up with the monitoring process through the years, is required for school buildings. I don't think that would still flow to them. I certainly would check it out if this is something that we proceed forward with. But it's a very good point. I don't know the answer right off the top of my head, but I would lean towards the fact that it would not, if they followed and I can't remember the name of it, but the law that applies to asbestos in school buildings, if they followed that procedure for monitoring, then I don't believe the abatement requirement would be on the school district. Not sure.
reason I came up with this idea, there's a boatyard that closed, did work for the Navy. And after it closed up, they were gonna build apartments there, so they found a bunch of lead paint from the sandblast from Navy ships. They went back, made the Navy pay for the cleanup, because the Navy was the originator of the lead paint. And I'm just thinking this could save the county some money if the school board's the originator, so maybe we go back on them and get them to, pay for the cleanup.
There definitely are some laws related to clean water, clean air, such that go back to the originator. I do think that school buildings are separate and are treated separately. I just don't remember specifically how they are, so I don't want to speak like I have authority on it and pretend I do when I don't. But we'll check it out as part of this if council wants to proceed forward.
I appreciate it, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Larry, I got another question for you. It was mentioned to me that we could probably save money by buying some property in Fairplay, but is this location the best location for a fire department?
Well, a little bit extra on there. The current location we're in is we're undersized. We don't even have maybe one legal parking spot where we are, and we can't expand. We've looked into feasibility of going up, and it was just cost prohibitive to go up to put any more space in our building. So looking at the location, it is the ideal location. It allows us to get to the interstate where 60% of our calls are, allows us to get to other neighboring districts, the Rosemary District, very well from there. But being as may, it's still, if we've got some other property, it's still, as a resident of Fairplay, that is a terrible hazard that we have there. It still needs to be addressed regardless of whether the fire department moved there or not. But it would be ideal for the fire department to be in that location.
If I may add one thing, I just did receive a note from our procurement director who said we did actually get a cost estimate, not a bid, but a cost estimate for the demolition of the building, and it was roughly $200,000 to $210,000.
What was that?
$200,000 to $210,000. I'd said we did not receive one, but we did, I'm sorry.
I have that same copy of that.
Okay.
That for demolition and abatement, or just demolition?
That's everything.
I'm thinking it was everything.
Was the building.
I have not seen it with
The
my own two
building.
eyes. That's for the building.
For the building.
That does not include the surrounding properties, and we have reason to believe that we may need to look a little further, correct, Chief?
That's correct. The price was for the abatement and demolition and disposal. What's above ground,
Do we
what's
think
not.
there's environmental contamination on the property outside of the building?
Say again?
Do we think there's environmental contamination outside the building?
We really don't know. I mean, it could be potential there, but we just don't know.
Well, the number one thing is if we, from a fire department standpoint, it would be a less expensive option to purchase a piece of property and build it on there rather than tear down and remove. And obviously, from a county standpoint, we're not liable for the building, period. However, I do agree with you, and we are trying to do things in our community that are removing certain issues that we have in there that are crime issues, and that's what we're working on in the Utica community, and this will be one of them. It's the issue would be is the amount of funds to tear down something such as this magnitude, because this isn't the only building in the county that we own. So I do appreciate you speaking about that. It is a great location for the fire department. It is used for parking in that specific area. I don't know how much parking once you, of course, is it 4 acres, 5 acres?
6 and change.
Somewhere around in there?
Yeah.
Texas Point.
That includes the grass area, right?
That's right.
Yeah, so depending on what you're building, the in and out of the fire station requires a certain setback from your doors, right? Is it 150 feet or something like that? So it would possibly lessen parking directly in front of the fire station. However, beside it, there would be the ability from that. In building the fire station, would that come from the funds that the Fairplay Fire Department get, or would that come from the county side of things, or where is Fair Play Fire Department in the build process?
All of our rural fire departments receive $60,000 per station for station expenses. Years ago, the county allotted and did the procurement policy and procedure for each of the stations. That did not allow for the stations to maintain any fund balance and roll over any savings, because obviously it would go back to the 10 fund if we did that. So we did allow we do it quarterly now, is that correct, Chief Wilkerson? We do quarterly allotments. To my knowledge, we do not require them to submit annual audits to us. We do selective audits if there's a case that calls for, or if that department comes to us and needs assistance from our finance, procurement, or any other department here, we do help initiate an audit process. But to my knowledge, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, even anybody here from emergency services that could, I don't believe we require audits any longer, since the stations have their own ID and their own, they're not under our tax umbrella any longer. So I don't know if we require y'all to keep a certain amount in fund balance.
No, but we do undergo audits.
Oh, okay, see,
Yeah.
I was completely unsure of that part. Now, whether there's county seed money that can be put into that, or if the county wants to designate the quarterly expenses next year to go toward establishment of that, I'll be frank with you, though, looking at the documents in front of me, if we're actually going to do the demolition and all of that, I would think it would be closer to a 6 to 12-month process. We could scoop up almost savings in 2 fiscal years and spread that cost out rather than budgeting for it at one time.
Would the Fair Play Fire Department sell the existing structure that they're in, or would y'all use that for other things?
I don't think it'd be conducive for much, as far as, because there's no parking there.
Right.
But what we would look at is see if we can make it turn into something like Double Springs, our neighboring district in Anderson County. They turned their old building into like a community center where folks come in and have, parties or what have you, have them in there. So to answer your question, Mr. Chairman, though, as far as the funding goes, we don't have funding to build a large building. We probably have enough to maybe try in a small building, but just like everybody, funds are tight.
Right. So that was kind of my next question is I guess as we move forward with that, and I know going into the new years, we look forward to fire stations and which ones we build and which ones, if everybody's getting the 60,000, how would a structure be built? Because if we go through spending $250,000 clearing a property, then, we don't want to put financial stress on your fire department to build something. So, so just a thought to council. I appreciate Mr. Hart bringing that up, because it would be something to remove from the community that is a hazard. But would be a completely good faith through the county if council ever decided to do that, so.
And if I may, one of the first things we could do, obviously, and Chief Wilkerson and I have talked extensively, full disclosure, I've even talked to our grants coordinator about this. One of the most difficult things that we've come across right now is the ownership of the property. The ownership of the property being at Fair Oak, and then Fair Oak having a lease at another area, has made it difficult for us to find any grants that would make it feasible for, the county can't be the recipient because we don't own it. We don't technically have a dog in the fight. The Fair Play Fire Department, and they don't own it either. And even though they're the ones that would most likely be the recipient of the largest amount of grant award, based on the size of their being a small station, being a rural fire department, and they're having such a small landlocked area now. But at the same time, I was hesitant to tell Chief Wilkerson to go ahead with accepting a lease agreement, knowing that there's asbestos and other contaminants inside of the building there. So we're kind of at that place where we're a little bit stuck.
Well, I don't have any issue continuing to investigate, talk with the school district on the land that they own, and go from there. And then we could bring it back to council in February and talk about it then, or
Okay, and just
Mr.
for the
Hart would
record,
like,
I
we could
do
have a
not
special
believe
meeting
the
to talk
district
about.
owns. I'm
that's
sorry.
up to you.
I'd like to see it push forward. As soon as we can have a meeting. How about you, Chief?
I missed a question.
I said, I'd like to see them go ahead and start something to get the ball rolling.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're not expelling funds, we're just trying to figure out what the school district's willing to do with their property.
Well,
And-
just for clarity there, since I did not invite Dr. Thorsland or Mr. Hanby over, when I met with them, no portion of this building is on school district property.
Correct.
There's a sliver of property, and correct me if I'm wrong, I keep saying that out loud, but I'm working on memory here. I wish we'd brought a map, actually. But there's a sliver of property on the corner. There's no portion of the building structure that belongs to the school district. So the school district has very little responsibility outside of what would be legally required, and Mr. Root will help us figure that out. So I don't want to go over there and say, hey, y'all owe us money for a building, when they gave away the building, not realizing that they didn't give away a corner. That was just an error and omission.
It's easy to say push forward, but you're talking about 250,000 easy expelling, and you don't even get a fire station out of it. So if we need to build a fire station, I'd rather spend money to build a fire station rather than push down a building and then go, okay, now go build it. So just a thought as we move forward with this, you know, how to build it. It's kind of something that y'all need to talk about. And then if council's willing to expend $200,000+ to do it. So,
May I
Well, there's
ask?
further potential hazards on the property, right? That's just a building. It's 200, 250. Is there, how much would it cost to find out about the other?
To do
surrounding
a
area.
phase one on the property?
Yeah.
7 to 10?
Sounds.
7 to 10 on a
1,000.
6-acre site? Yeah, roughly 7 to 10,000. And some of that will be dependent on if they find anything, like, you know, they stick a stick in the ground and it comes up purple, then it may cost a little more for them to send it off to tell us what the purple material is. But if I may, one of the things that we can do is investigate how many tonnages, kind of back out the figure of the 210, because some of that disposal cost, we can put asbestos in a portion of the landfill under permitting, under certain conditions with DHEC approval. We do accept asbestos from outside agencies as well as contractors. If that's part of the cost, because it is $55 or $57 a ton at this time, I think, if that's something we could back out of that cost, why don't we actually do a breakdown of the estimate we have, see what county forces can be used to back that number down, and let's get a more realistic number on the table.
what was the condition of the bid? How long, you said 8 years, 9 years? How long you been chief?
92.
Forever.
92 years.
What was the
Forever.
condition of the building when they got it? Do you remember?
When
Was it work?
When it's still in good condition, but over time, it's just degraded, and, you know, that roof, they put a new roof on it right before they closed the school, and it was $1 million plus, but so the youth center just doesn't have those type of funds to maintain that building.
Gotcha.
Thank you, Larry.
All right, thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
All right. Board and commission appointments, maybe we'll have a building codes and appeal after this one. We have nothing on the floor for arson historical or building codes, no unfinished. Mr. Elliott, you have 4 on new business?
Yes, the city of Clemson is in the process of putting in a moratorium on apartment complexes. And I have a major concern that will push mid-rise, wood-framed apartment complexes up into Oconee County that are safety issues when it comes to fire hazard. So I would like the council to address this in a future meeting to see what we can do about the apartment complexes coming up, being built out of wood structures that are fire hazards and pose a danger to the residents in those apartment complexes and to the residents that live near those complexes.
Mr. Elliott's right, but we need to carry it to like Clemson, the city of Clemson. They got a moratorium on building any more buildings, any more apartments. You're 100% right, John. You know, they dump it on us, taxpayers pay for all the fire, police, And what are we getting out of it? Them students, they're not even residents. We just foot the bill. You're 100% right.
If I may, can I ask for a broadening of that to include base standard structures? Not simply just wood, but anything that is built only to a minimum standard?
Sure.
Some of those materials may not necessarily be wood from some of the items that we've looked at from one of the previous discussions we had in the past. I don't want to limit it to wood. Any material that is to minimum standard only.
Right, I'd like to see multi-story apartment complexes and hotels built out of steel and concrete. No, that's expensive, but it's expensive for us taxpayers to provide fire protection for mid-rise wooden structures.
Mr. Elliott, if you approve and administrator and staff approves, January 21st, we haven't pushed out any meetings, we don't have any committee meetings scheduled, but we do, that would be our second meeting of the year. Could we do a special call at 4:30, maybe have our building codes officials attend that meeting? Would that give you enough time to prepare for that? That'd be the 21st, 4:30. Would that be, that, we do have a regular council meeting that evening, but would council approve of that? Would that work? Ms. Brock, do you want to check back and let us know?
I'm going to tentatively say yes.
Okay.
If there's a need to change that, then I will get in touch.
So it would just be a special
Yes,
called
meeting.
council meeting
But I will say
in
yes
regards to
now.
building standards in Oconee County. And we can go from there. Okay. All right. Is that clear? Okay. All right. So that's January 21st, 4:30. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Elliott, for bringing that forward. Okay. Any other new business at this time?
I just want to add,
Yes, sir.
add on what Mr. Elliott said. We need to look at the moratorium on building any more of this type of stuff. It's overtaxing our infrastructure, and taxpayers can't afford it. Thank you.
All right. Need a motion to move into executive session. We do not need the first one, which is receive legal advice to discuss ongoing litigation matter. So we do not need that one. So we need executive session for the following matters: discussion regarding an economic development matter, Project Trout, and discussion regarding an economic development matter, Project Aztec. Do I have a motion to enter into executive session for those two items?
Make a motion.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Motion to reconvene.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. No action was taken in executive session. We do need a motion to postpone Resolution 2019-23. That's the resolution certifying certain real property in Oconee County as an abandoned textile mill. Do I have?
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry.
Yes, please.
to do it, just so we don't get out of order. Executive session, items that stem from executive session have to come right after executive session. So if we could have a motion in relation to Project Aztec first, a motion to continue negotiations as discussed, and then we'll take up the resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Reed.
Yes,
All
sir.
in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Now, motion to postpone Resolution 2019-23, abandoned textile mill site.
Make a motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you, sir.
All right. And
Make a motion to adjourn.
I wish everybody Merry Christmas, Happy
Merry
New Year,
Christmas.
and thank staff for the hard work.
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you all.